Her family told her she could marry up, and she dumped me the day before we closed on a house, so I bought it alone. Now her rich fiancé left her, and her family is harassing me to be the bigger person. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. The first time I met Qley's family, I should have known. It wasn't anything they said, not directly. It was the way her mother, Brenda, looked at my perfectly serviceable Toyota Camry parked in their circular driveway, as if it were a stray animal that had wandered onto the estate. It was the way her father, Robert, shook my hand while his eyes were already scanning me for my net worth. But I loved Qley, and for 2 years, I told myself that her family's quiet disdain was a price worth paying. Tonight, the price felt steeper than usual. We were seated around their impossibly long mahogany dining table, the silverware gleaming under a chandelier that probably cost more than my annual salary. "And how is the project management going, Alex?" Brenda asked, dabbing the corner of her mouth with a linen napkin. She always said my job title as if it were in air quotes, a cute little hobby. "It's going well, Brenda," I said, forcing a smile. "We're launching a new software suite next month. It's a big project." "How lovely," she said, her smile not reaching her eyes. "David, Sarah's last boyfriend, he was in private equity. Such a whirlwind. They're in Monaco this week." From the head of the table, Robert grunted without looking up from his filet mignon. "Stability is important, Brenda. Not everyone is cut out for high finance." Qley's brother, Kevin, smirked from across the table. "Yeah, gotta respect a guy who knows his ceiling." I felt my knuckles go white around my fork. I was an island in a sea of their passive aggression. I looked at Qley, waiting for her to say something, to defend me, to squeeze my hand under the table. She just gave a weak, placating smile and took a sip of wine. I thought Qley was my port in the storm, but I was starting to realize she was just another wave. A month later, the storm felt distant. We were standing in the empty living room of a small, craftsman-style house, sunlight streaming through the bay window. It was perfect. It needed work, but it had good bones and a huge backyard. "We can put the Christmas tree right there," Qley said, her voice giddy as she pointed to a corner. "And imagine a swing set out back someday." My heart swelled. This was it. The future. Our future. "It's ours," I said, pulling her into a hug. "We'll make an offer today." I poured every ounce of my hope and every dollar of my savings into that house. The down payment cleaned me out, but I didn't care. It was more than wood and concrete. It was the blueprint for our life. My biggest mistake was letting her hold the blueprint. The night before the closing, I was buzzing. I'd packed a box of kitchen essentials, ready to move first thing in the morning after we signed the papers. I was picturing our first coffee in the new kitchen when I noticed Qley was quiet. She was perched on the arm of our sofa, still in her work clothes, her arms crossed. "You excited?" I asked, taping the box shut. "Alex," she said, her voice unnervingly flat. "We need to talk. We can't buy the house." The tape dispenser froze in my hand. A cold trickle of dread ran down my spine. "What? Why? Is it the financing? Did something fall through?" "It's us," she said, not meeting my eyes. She was reciting something rehearsed. A hollow laugh escaped me. "What are you talking about?" "It's our house. My family," she started, and my blood ran cold. "They're right. I need to think about my future." A real future. I stared at her, the pieces clicking into a horrifying picture. The timing, the cruelty of it. "Qley, what is this?" "I met someone," she said, and the words were like physical blows. "His name is Jason. He's a partner at a law firm. He has prospects." Finally, she looked at me, and her gaze was dismissive, final. "This thing with us, it's settling." The air left my lungs. Settling. The word echoed in the silent apartment. I looked at the box at my feet, the symbol of the future I'd worked for, dreamed of, paid for. "You're telling me this now?" My voice was a low whisper, frayed with disbelief. "The day before we close? You let me sign my life away. You let me drain my savings, knowing you were done." She had the gall to shrug, a delicate, practiced gesture she'd learned from her mother. "It's just a house, Alex. And it's not my fault you can't provide the kind of life I deserve." She stood up, smoothing her skirt. "My family says I can marry up. And I'm going to. Marry up. The love didn't shatter, it iced over. In that moment, she and her family became a business deal that had just fallen through. And I was the only one who hadn't read the fine print. The heat of anger was gone, replaced by an Arctic calm. I looked at the box. I looked at her. I placed the tape dispenser gently on top of it. Then go marry up, Qley, I said, my voice eerily steady. I hope he's worth it. I didn't wait for a response. I walked to the hook by the door, picked up my car keys, and walked out. I didn't slam the door. I closed it softly, leaving her standing in the apartment with the ghost of the life we'd almost had. The blueprint was ashes, but I was still standing. The sun was a liar. It streamed through the windshield of my car, cheerful and bright, a stark contrast to the leaden weight in my chest. I was parked outside the title company, engine off, the silence screaming in my ears. The key fob felt like a live wire in my hand. My phone buzzed. Sarah, the realtor. Hey Alex, all set for the big day? See you in 15. A fresh wave of nausea rolled through me. I could still run. I could call her, say it's over, take the financial hit, and slink away. It would be the same thing to do, the sensible thing. But sanity and sense had gotten me here. To occur outside an office where I was about to be legally bound to a monument of my own humiliation. Backing out felt like letting them win, letting them prove I wasn't enough. Buying it felt like insanity. But for the first time, it was my insanity. I got out of the car. My legs were concrete pillars. The air-conditioned chill of the office was a shock. Sarah was there, her smile a beacon of normalcy. The elderly sellers smiled warmly. The loan officer had a neat stack of papers. Where's Qley? Sarah asked, her eyes darting behind me to the empty doorway. My throat was tight. She's not coming. The room stilled. The seller's smiles vanished. The loan officer adjusted his glasses, frowning at the documents. Just you? He asked, as if I'd suggested signing in blood. Just me. I confirmed, my voice firmer than I felt. Is that a problem? What followed was an hour of hushed conversations, recalculations, and sympathetic, pitying looks I wanted to shred. But I signed, line after line, initialing my future, alone. When it was done, Sarah handed me the keys, her expression a mixture of professional congratulations and profound concern. Alex, are you sure? The house is mine, I said, cutting her off. It wasn't a statement to her. It was a vow to myself. The first night was a special kind of hell. I lay in a sleeping bag on the bare floor of the master bedroom, the emptiness of the house pressing down on me. Every creak, every sigh of the settling foundation was Qley's ghost. This is where we'd put the bed. This is the window we'd watch the rain from. The blueprint of our life was etched into the dust. For a week, I was a ghost myself, drifting through the hollow rooms. I lived out of a cooler. I showered at the gym. The house was a shell, and I was the lost creature trapped inside. Then, on a Saturday, I went to the hardware store. I didn't need anything. I just wandered the aisles, the smell of wood and paint a strange comfort. I found myself in the paint section, staring at a chip called Midnight Ocean. It was a deep, bold blue, the color of a stormy sea. Qley would have hated it. She'd have called it oppressive. I bought a gallon. That afternoon, I painted one wall in the living room. It wasn't a professional job. I got paint on the floorboards, on the ceiling. But as the roller swept the bold color over the sterile white, something in me unlocked. It was an act of defiance, a declaration of war on the ghost. I bought a single camp chair and put it right in the center of the room, facing the blue wall. In the evenings, I'd sit there, just breathing. The silence began to change. It was no longer empty. It was full of potential. My potential. I started a garden in the backyard, turning the hard soil until my muscles ached and my hands were raw. The physical pain was a cleanse. I was planting my flag in this earth, for me. The first attempt to breach my new walls came from an unlikely source. A text from Kevin, 2 months in. Kevin, hey man, heard you bought the house. Bold move. How you holding up? I could picture the scene. The family dinner. The news delivered with shocked tones. He actually went through with it. The fool, Kevin, as the family scout, sent to assess the damage. I didn't reply immediately. I let the message sit while I assembled a bookshelf, following the instructions with a focus I hadn't felt in years. My reply was a surgical strike. I'm doing well, Kevin. The house is great. No invitation for conversation. No details. Just a calm, unassailable statement of fact. I blocked his number immediately after. The fortress gate slammed shut. The main assault came on a humid afternoon. I was sanding the front porch railing, the screech of wood under paper a satisfying sound of progress. My phone rang. Brenda. The name was a splash of cold water. I let it ring 3 times, my heart a steady drum against my ribs. I needed to know what they would try. I answered. Brenda. Alex, it's Brenda. Her voice was tight, the cultured lilt strained to its breaking point. We need you to talk to Qley. I said nothing. The sandpaper continued its rhythmic scrape. She couldn't bear the silence. This, Jason. She spat the name. He's not the man we thought he was. More silence from me. I wanted her to squirm, to feel the weight of every dismissive comment, every condescending smile. He ended things, she confessed, her voice cracking with a mixture of fury and humiliation. Said he wasn't ready for commitment. The prenup was a nightmare, but now there's no prenup, there's no nothing. She's devastated. After everything you two had, you can't just abandon her. There it was. The king she had anointed had fled the battlefield, leaving her princess in ruins. The poetic justice was so absolute it was chilling. She mistook my silence for wavering. You need to be the bigger person here, Alex. That phrase. The final, desperate weapon in the arsenal of the entitled. I stopped sanding. The sudden quiet was profound. Brenda, I said, my voice calm and impossibly clear. It was the voice of the man who owned this house, this life. Being the bigger person is just a phrase people like you use when you want someone you've mistreated to clean up your mess. I heard her sharp, indrawn breath. I'm not interested. I continued, the words final and absolute. My only responsibility now is to my own peace. I ended the call. No goodbyes. I looked out from my porch at the quiet street, the bold blue of my living room wall a defiant slash of color behind me. The attack was over. The walls had held. And inside the fortress, I was not just safe. I was free. The first text arrived like a faint echo from a forgotten life. It was from a number I didn't recognize, but the area code was theirs. Unknown number. Alex, my mom told me she called you. I'm so sorry. They were wrong about everything. I was wrong. I was staining the deck I'd built with my own hands, the rich cedar color a testament to my sweat. I read the message, felt nothing, and deleted it. The drawbridge to my fortress was up, and I wasn't lowering it for a ghost. A few days later, another one. Unknown number. I drove by the house. The garden you wanted is so beautiful. I remember us picking out the paint colors for the porch. This one was sharper, a precise stab of nostalgia aimed at a heart that had already scarred over. She was right. We had picked out a color. Seaside villa. A safe, inoffensive beige. The porch was now terracotta, warm and vibrant. I blocked the number without a second thought. Her words were like faint, distant rain. I was safe and dry inside my own life. The third message was the most desperate, arriving as I was planning a hiking trip with a woman named Maria, a geologist I'd met who loved my bold blue wall and had no time for drama. Unknown number. Please. Can we just talk? I need to see you. I need to apologize in person. The shift from wistful to demanding was telling. The princess was not used to being ignored. I showed the phone to Maria. She doesn't like your new color scheme? She asked, a wry smile on her face. Something like that, I said, and blocked the number for the final time. Weeks bled into a peaceful autumn. The house was no longer a project. It was a home. It smelled of fresh coffee and the wood smoke from the first fire of the season. Maria was often there, her presence easy and uncomplicated. She filled the spaces not with noise, but with a quiet, steady warmth. It was a golden Saturday afternoon. I was in the front yard, planting a young oak tree at the edge of the property, a long-term investment in shade and stability. Maria was on the porch swing I'd hung, reading a book, a blanket draped over her legs. The scene was a postcard of the piece I had built. The sound of a car slowing down didn't register at first. Then it stopped. The engine cut. I looked up, trowel in hand. Qley was standing there, one hand on her car door. She looked diminished. Her clothes were still expensive, but they hung on her loosely. Her face was pale, stripped of its usual calculated composure. Her eyes, wide and haunted, scanned the scene. The vibrant porch, the thriving garden, Maria on the swing, me kneeling in the earth. She took a hesitant step forward. Alex. Her voice was a fragile thing. You planted the oak tree. We had always talked about planting one. A legacy tree. I stood up, brushing the dirt from my knees. My posture was not defensive, but settled. Qley, I said, my voice neutral, as if acknowledging a distant acquaintance. You shouldn't be here. She flinched, but took another step, her gaze pleading. I had to. I'm so sorry. It was all a mistake. The words tumbled out, practiced and desperate. My family, they poisoned me. They filled my head with all this nonsense. I was stupid. I was so stupid. Her eyes darted to Maria, who was watching the exchange with a calm, observant silence, then back to me. I threw away the best thing that ever happened to me for a fantasy. Her voice cracked as her gesture took in the house, the yard, the entire life she could see. This was supposed to be ours. I didn't move. I let her words hang in the crisp air between us. Then I let them fall, useless to the ground. It was ours, I said, my tone not cruel, but fiercely, unshakably final. It was the voice of a man protecting his most valuable asset, his peace. Then you chose differently, and I chose to build a life here without you. We can fix this, she cried, her desperation boiling over. We can get back what we had. I shook my head, a look of profound finality on my face. No, Qley, we can't. What we had was built on a foundation that you and your family cracked beyond repair. I glanced at Maria, who offered a small, supportive smile, a silent testament to my new reality. I looked back at Qley, my gaze clear and unwavering. What I have now is built on something solid. On my own terms. I picked up the trowel. The conversation was over. I need you to leave. I didn't watch her go. I turned my back, knelt down, and went back to planting my tree, patting the rich, dark soil firmly around its roots. A moment later, I heard Maria's soft footsteps. She didn't say a word, just placed a warm, steadying hand on my shoulder. I heard a car door shut, an engine start, and the sound of a vehicle pulling away, growing fainter until it was swallowed by the quiet of the neighborhood. As I patted the soil around the new tree, I felt no triumph, only peace. The house was no longer a monument to a broken dream. It was simply my home. Her family's words, her betrayal, the bigger person I refused to be. It was all just noise from a world I had gladly left behind. The silence in my own life, I had discovered, was beautiful. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.